What's going on out there, everybody? Welcome to another Addicted Fishing podcast. I think it's Steelhead time. We've said that a couple times, but I've got two very proficient steelheaders in today to this podcast to discuss the extra 10%. The extra 10% that these guys do, and to catch more steel, I got Mr. Ryan McCon, Riverside Guide Service.
What's going on out there?
And Jason Harmson. And I figured it was a cool one to bring Ryan in because, Ryan, you do a ton of like big water sledding. You don't do too much of the raft stuff, but there's a million things that you're doing. You know, I'll say it because it's the most popular spot. You know, Blue Creek, but other areas as well.
Oh yeah,
that you got to put fish up, and of course, Mr. Harmson from Steel Obsession.
Yes,
I gotta say that better. I gotta say Steel.
I think it's pretty solid. Yeah, I feel like you've definitely said it enough like that where you've solidified the way that you say my guide service name.
I know. Did I miss something?
Not a thing.
Well, yeah, I know. You'll hear.
Yeah.
We got a couch in here and everything. Anyways, but no, we got Harms, and you do a ton of rafting,
yeah,
a ton of guiding the smaller stuff. So I figured I'd drag these guys in here and talk, like I said, the extra 10%. What do you do? I mean, everything from, you know, like sizing down baits to settling out baits to, we were talking a little bit before the podcast on like how you're hanging your jig, how you're hanging your worms. But to put you guys on the spot, give me one thing. Neither one of you guys can chime in, like, just to get this conversation going. Give me one thing that you think that you do. Now, keep in mind, addicts, like, you know, these guys are guides. They do, you know, they've got things and maneuvers and stuff that they do different than, we'll say, the general population. Put people on fish, just when conditions are tough.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're talking, like, stuff like, I mean, I always carry a stupid little Sally Hansen sharpener in my vest, because like everyone's like locked a jig into a rock or had a client set a hook on a rock or something with a jig
100%,
and so like making sure
gotta make sure that hook point's sharp every time. Yeah, I'm assuming that's where you're going with that.
Yeah, because if you don't, well, then the one bite you get,
you could miss.
It ain't gonna happen.
Definitely don't get that good of a hook penetration with a rounded out hook point.
No. But what do we got for like colors and like, I mean, just
I feel
ideas.
Like anything today, it's all about those details that guys aren't paying attention, and that's the difference, because you know everyone's got a lot of knowledge these days, and I feel like it's gotten tougher. Years ago, there was only a few guys that actually knew how to steelhead fish,
right? And
times have changed a lot now, so guys like us have been doing it for 30 years. We've had to step up our game, and definitely those little details are the game changer of catching one fish to 10 a day, you know?
Yeah,
it's just absolute game changer, the little details that guys don't pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
So like talk about, so like to go on that, like, so we'll just, I don't want to like pick on Blue Creek, but I'm going to just talk about Blue Creek because you talk about how the games has changed. I mean, 5 years ago, there wasn't a guy bobber dogging that stretch.
Zero.
Now
It's everybody.
Everyone's bobber
like
dogging.
there's a few guys out that are still side drifting, but they're kind of like parking your car in the middle of I-5. Like, come on, dude. Like, either get with the program, or it's cool. Like, if you want to fish that way, move to other areas that you're not impeding on other people. You know,
when in Rome, do as the Romans.
And now that everyone's bobber dogging, like everyone's presentation is better. So everything's consistently drifting. Where the guy that didn't know how to adjust his lead and cut that lead down, it's that's kind of changed, you know, the Dave tangle-free weights and stuff like that have really like even that playing field, I feel like. So now it comes down to presentation and sizing down and hook size and line size, especially on high-pressure fisheries like that, where it definitely matters when the water starts cleaning up. Like, there's a reason why 4 boats out of 100 are putting the show on every day. Like, absolutely.
But everybody's bobber dogging, and from everything I read, if you just bobber dog, you just automatically catch steelhead. It's not the case. Not the case, huh? One of the things that annoys me, and it's one thing I really pay attention to, and I'm sure you do too, I'm sure your stuff is so set perfectly for it, but the rate that your line can draw through the float when it's trying to get down at the start of a drift.
Oh, that's
crucial. Talk a little bit about that if you can.
So, you know, on these bigger systems where your bobber's sliding anywhere from 10 to 20 feet to where it stops. Like getting that lead down and fishing and not getting that big bow in your line is everything. Because if you're not getting your bobber to slide up your line, now you got a big bow and your whole drift you're constantly trying to adjust it and reel line or telling guys to pull the line to get that presentation. And you kind of want, with bobber dogging to me and that deeper stuff, you want that 45-degree angle and you want that bobber tight to that lead.
Yep.
If it's not that, your presentation's off. And everyone has their own opinion. You know, I'm a super big presentation guy. I'm not a big scent guy when it comes to steelhead. They're like, I call it like a cat. They strike on reaction. They're not a fish that, like a salmon, that's going to come up and look at it for a long time on those bigger systems. So presentation and getting that bead or that jig to move just at the right speed is what sets them off.
And one thing, you know, I was trying to bait him into this, guys, because I know one problem that you guys do have out there, and I've experienced too, is if you do have any of that, like when you cast out at the start of the run and your bait's not getting down there and getting set quickly, and then everything's kind of tightening up, right? You throw your gear out, you got to give it slack. You got to let it get to the bottom. If it's taking you 30, 40 yards to get to the bottom and start to get set, what happens when a fish like grabs any of that gear?
You don't even see it.
You don't even see it.
You don't even know it's there.
Yep.
I've seen them jumping out of the water and guys aren't even tight on their, and it's like, well, if they would have had their bobber slide down proper, that fish would have been tight and hooked. Instead, it just kind of cartwheels out of the water and you see this loose line flying in the air.
What are some of the things that you tell guys to do to get that line to go through their bobber quicker?
Dump line, keep that rod tip up. We use pretty long rods on those bigger systems, like 10.5 footers. Like I swear, if I could train my people to run 12 footers, it'd even be better on those bigger systems.
Right.
Really?
Just because you're getting that line to shoot down. Once it hits the water on fast water like that, now you got the drag of that, so it's not really getting down. So a good long rod's good. And then I like a good stiff line because the softer lines just don't seem to slide through the bobbers as good.
Right. Do you ever use a monofilament bumper?
I used to years ago, and it seems like the fluoro slides better because of the rigidity of it.
Oh, okay.
So
there's also some sinking properties to fluoro. So do you think so?
Right.
So you're to the point where it's fluoro over mono for the bumper.
yeah,
Like,
and especially with
what.
customers, because that softer line just will tangle. It'll wrap the bobber on them and stuff. And I'm used to basically coaching and walking through 4 to 5 people a day. It's not like when you're in a raft or a drift boat where you're just focused on 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
So it's a really big deal on those bigger systems to work together as a team and have the whole boat working together and not just the guide and he's the only one hooking and you got 4 lines that aren't even fishing.
Right.
So, and then on those situations, you want to make sure everything's matching. You don't want one bumper to be 2 feet longer. You don't want one lead to be slightly different because everything has to be perfect when you're doing those longer drifts with multiple 4 or 5 rods in the water.
Yeah.
Or else you have guys bobbers passing each other
crossing
and
each
kind
other
of
out.
crossing.
Oh, yeah.
And then you guys got guys lifting over each other and reeling up. And the key, I mean, let's be honest, the key is bobber dogging is if you're doing it right, you can cast out and drift 400 yards and you're fishing effectively the whole way. But if you're constantly having to reset that gear, so having everything matched up makes a lot of sense just because, like I said, you're not going to hopefully, have 5 guys cast at the start and have everybody run the same all the way through the drift. And then you're fishing 10 beads.
And a lot of times on the bigger systems that if a guy, say he hangs up a little bit, I don't tell my guys to set the hook on bobber dogging because then he just whips it and he's out of the slot. Then he's going to take out the 3 lodges below him. So I say just let it load up. And once you feel it's a fish, just reel down on it.
Right.
And a lot of times he's going to be out of line then. So have him bring it all the way in. And my big saying in my boat is above and beyond. I want you above and beyond the guy. And I try to tell people like 8 to 12 feet. So by the time their lead gets down, now they're back in with the groove and none of the boats stopped and we're still fishing efficiently 4 to 5 lines all the time.
And if you're not setting the hook and you're letting that fish load itself and you got all that extra line out there, going back to the whole being tight to the bobber. Cause I know a couple years ago, like me too, like we were going up there and we were getting like where you see the bobber would kind of like tap and then chug down, like, it's a fish.
Yeah.
But you never were just like tight enough to it to make sure that hook got into them.
Yeah. Right.
Because by the time you throw those 2 beads and they start drifting forward of the gear, I mean, by the time it even registers on the bobber, those fish could be holding onto that thing for
a long time.
A long time before you even
Yeah.
have a clue that it was even on it.
Yeah.
And on those high pressure fisheries, those fish are definitely weird, like compared to coastal fisheries where I feel like they just climb on stuff.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know what I
right.
mean? Like they're absolutely just barely wanting to put their mouth on it. They might have been hooked 3 or 4 times already.
Yeah.
They're getting ran over by sleds all day. So
Yeah, they're grabbing stuff and kicking. They're just testing and kicking it out.
and like I said, I don't have my guys set the hook because those fish will bite again sometimes. I'll go through that same drift, and as long as you don't rip on them and they feel that weird change or hear that sound in the water, that weight whipping, they'll come back, and a lot of times they'll bite again and you can pick them up. So
maybe even like maybe even kind of like talk about that a little bit, Jason, with how, when you're in a raft and you don't want to spook the fish, you don't want to you don't want to go over the fish. If you miss a fish going back at it, like how do you approach that in a raft in a system that like you move down into the hole, you've got guys, you want to make sure they're fishing good. Is there any technique or is there any idea, or do you just, I know you don't just show, because I don't need to do it, but
I definitely go with a subtle presentation first, and then I'll come in with maybe a jig, kind of following that up, and then I'll get, more aggressive as I go through my, progression of the hole. But like to start, I'll throw 2 beads out there, or 4 beads, however many I can run below my bobber. Anyways,
4 beads.
Yeah. Well, no, not 4 beads.
I knew what he was saying. 2 rods.
Double,
2
double,
rods. Yeah.
Double
4
rig or
beads.
single.
You had him thinking on that one, didn't you? He's like,
Exactly.
4 bees. I haven't tried that
Oh,
one
yeah.
Keep
yet.
this guy on his toes.
That'd be kind of cool.
But anyways, yeah, so you run through your progression. You get your beads to there first. Usually the most subtle presentation you could throw at the steelhead, and then throw the jigs and throw the worms. And I mean, a lot of times I'll find if I'll get a shy bite on a bead or a jig, it will usually be like the first 2 casts with the worm in there. And if they don't bite that, you have to go back to whatever you got them on the first time and size down or size appropriate to what that fish wants.
Yeah, I call it loud and proud. Sometimes you get loud and proud and they smash it. Sometimes you got to get just, like you said, small and finicky.
See, Marlon would argue with that because Marlon, and we've had this huge debate.
I've fished with this guy a lot too, and I've picked up fish with beads behind this guy. So there is
that, but the idea of you throw it like Marlon's in the room listening to this, and we're razzing him a little bit. But when but sometimes it with the rafting, anyways, it seems like it can be anything in the hole. And a fish that sees a pink worm, from 10 feet away might move
for that worm, but won't move for that bead.
Yeah,
correct. Yeah,
and it has to have.
But
that
then there's
bead,
those fish that have been ran over all the time that are or the ones that have maybe been stung once the day before. Who knows what?
Another thing that I think both you guys probably would agree on, sometimes I'm in a hole, especially on small systems where I'm in a raft or a drift boat, and say you missed one or you pulled one out of there, but there's a bunch of fish in there. You say there's 5 to 10 fish in there.
You go into the hole, you whack a couple real quick.
Sometimes I'll just say, hey, you guys back off, because everyone wants to keep fishing. And sometimes if you just stop for 10 minutes and take a drink and eat a candy bar, first cast through, you're going to hook up again.
I started doing that a lot last year, and it started paying off for me.
Oh, yeah.
Quite a bit towards the end of the season once there started to get more fish in there. And, they had been picked on a little bit. Later in the season, the fish have been in the system for a little while. So,
yeah, I feel like what it does is
exactly
it just
what you just
resets
said.
their brain. I think they got a short-term memory, and if they just keep seeing it, they're never going to go for it again.
Definitely.
But if you just, back off of them, the bobber's not hitting the water, and all of a sudden... And I always put the guy that hasn't hooked up that day. I'm like, okay, you go first because he's already hooked too. And then it's that bobber's getting drained because they're fresh again.
Yeah.
There's no question, fishing with Nick on some of the busier rivers and stuff like that. He is really good at going and just sitting in a hole and he is the most patient person.
Just
when
beating it up.
Just knowing that, okay, I know, but I mean, you fish it, if he fishes it every day. So he also knows where the fish are stacking.
Exactly.
And, go in there, first 2 bobbers through, doink, doink, okay, just sit on it. And the other thing is, too, since you're sitting there, you only know what's going on in that hole while you're there. So if you're sitting there watching it and you're letting that part of the run chill and you're fishing this, well, no one's coming in and fishing that part of the run with you sitting there.
Right.
And kind of reserving that stuff and strategically instead of just
a lot of times those guys are pushing
just,
fish into those spots for you too. If you're sitting and being patient, that
yeah.
they're
No
rowing through
question.
because they're not going to fish that spot you're sitting on, and all of a sudden See a couple little V's come through the tail out, and you're like, "Oh, got some fresh ones moving in."
I remember one of the very first times we fished them down there. We went down to the spot, fished it, got some fish, and then we sat there for 3 or 4 hours. And the idea was there was a lot of people, and so like he knew that if he moved, like he was just gonna start bumping people, like, or he's gonna have to bump down. You don't know how many people are down around the bend.
Exactly.
And it was a good spot. And I remember like 3 hours later, like you could tell like the ball of fish moved in and we freaking wrecked those fish.
Nice.
I mean, and so like had a little patience, had a little like, but he also understood, like how many people are on the river, how many people are going on. There's also the,
pressure and everything's as much as water height and flow, I feel like for moving fish.
I was going to say, that's kind of another thing that I take into consideration when I'm rolling into a hole. If I know there's been a lot of people on the river that day, I'll freaking start off right with a big old worm. First thing. Blow them up, get them going, stir them up. If they're going to freaking bite, they're going to bite it. And if they're not, I probably don't want to bite. I want that fish anyways. You know what I mean?
I mean, I
want that big aggressive one.
Right. And there's no question that like, with the amount, I mean, and like, to be honest, like there's less and less places to fish. People are, like Ryan said earlier, people are being more educated. You're welcome. Like there's a little bit of that. Not that STS magazine and Fishing Northwest hasn't been doing it. Buzz Ramsey hasn't been doing it for the last 60 years. But the reality is like instead of, we know steelhead are going to eat a bead.
Yeah.
We know they're going to eat a worm. But like approaching, I guess that'd be like an extra 10% thing, is like just having like a little bit of a strategy and having a little bit of knowledge of like, okay,
knowing what you're doing.
Hey, believe it or not, Cameron, they still eat bait.
Oh, I didn't say no. They don't eat bait. Don't fish any. Don't fish any bait. Don't fish any bait at all. I mean, going from your fishery, where it was. I mean, that's what it was. It was a bait fishery.
Yeah.
I mean, and now it is a bead fishery. Why is that? Is it just
you see it going in little waves. Like I see it throughout the season because of obviously I'm out there every day, and I see patterns where like all of a sudden the temp changes a little bit, our water flow changes, and next thing you know, you're mopping them on bait, and I just never count it out. I feel like anytime I go steelhead fishing, when it's legal on a system, I'm gonna have some kind of bait,
right?
Regardless if it's eggs, prawns, whatever kind of bait you have confidence in. There's a time and a place for that bait everywhere. I feel like,
all the time.
So, I think a lot of people that are new into steelheading, they get stuck on just bobber dogging this artificial stuff because that's what everyone is really like pushing and talking about.
Well,
and they see pictures. They see pictures of people holding up fish, but at the end of the day, that old school stuff still works really good, and especially if everybody's throwing the same 14 to 20 millimeter soft bead, like give them a hamburger to chew on.
Yeah,
you're stealing my next point. Like when you do see those people in the pressured systems, like you motioned earlier, running something different or busting them up with plugs.
Yes,
going at them with bait, doing something. I mean, to be honest with you, like I still fish I fish bait probably more than anything else. Actually, I'll just say it. I do fish bait more than anything else.
When I like it for beginners too.
Fishing the beads 6 years ago, that was the best gift somebody ever gave me in my operation.
Oh yeah.
See, and I've had days where I've fished beads and bait at the same time, and the bait will roll through, and it's almost acting as a chum, like it chums the hole.
Yeah.
And then you throw your beads through, and your beads get hit.
Yeah.
I don't know what it does or what
they gotta
happens in the
smell
hole.
it.
I mean, exactly. They have to get lit
That's
up
like
by
a
the smell of
flasher.
the
That's
bait.
the attractor. They're like, oh, and it gets them.
I guess there's a reason.
And
Marlon,
especially,
I don't know if you guys can hear that, but Marlon goes, "There's a reason why chumming's illegal." But guess what?
You guys that
I can't say where we saw it, but there was a place where it was actually legal to do, and it wasn't around here.
Oh,
and it works.
I'm
That's
sure.
all I'm gonna say.
I'm sure.
We saw it. We saw it with our own eyes, right, Marlon? It was like you knew there was fish there. They would not do anything, and then you started doing a bunch of stuff. No, you started doing a bunch of stuff, and then the next three baits that went through just boom, boom, just started draining bobbers.
Well, you guys that fish a lot of small,
but it's illegal, so don't do it.
Small rivers and stuff. I've seen it so many times that you watch especially when the water's just crystal clear. You watch it, and sometimes you'll throw something through. If you see their fins just flare out, they're gonna bite the next thing they see. I've seen it too many times where it gets them fired up. That first one that goes through, and then if I see their fins flare straight out, I know the next thing they see they're smashing because they're in the strike mode now.
they're a little more.
But
getting a
they
little
were
more
just
excited.
relaxed at the first, bait or whatever, beat or whatever they
Right.
saw. So
See something that woke them up.
sometimes, like we're talking about details and stuff, and that's the stuff that people don't really pay attention to. Oh, I can see 5 steelhead in that hole, but are you seeing their body language?
Right. What are they doing?
Yeah. Are they seeing your bobber and moving out of the way because you're not using, I've seen where cork bobbers are everything in that gin clear water, where if you have any kind of color on that float, they're not going to bite. It spooks them, especially, summer run fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Or how pressured they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very pressured fish. I've never used a cork bobber, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
What? You need to. Shut up! I didn't say that.
That's all there was back in the day. The little ones you put the
bag
bag in.
we gotta yeah. I'll have to do like an OG episode or something like that.
There we go.
Well,
Dude,
Yeah.
in the big boat. Need to do that in the big boat. Go bounce one day.
oh
Bounce
yeah,
heads.
that too. We're getting off track. 10% too. What about rigging, guys? So one thing that I think is important, and it's become mainstay for sure, is putting that little corky on top of the float. I always want to talk about it because a lot of people see that, and a lot of people don't. If you don't respond to it, it's fine. But where I started really doing that a lot is when we started fishing these really long leader stuff, these really long bait leaders, these really long bead leaders. And you go to a hole and the water's really low and it's really clear and it's a day that guys have had booked. You told them look, it's going to be tough. There's only going to be a few spots there's going to be fish. We just don't want to screw it up. And they send that first freaking cast through the hole. Sometimes you can even see the fish. And they drift it through and the fish don't react or they move away from it or something. And then the guy reels in and the stupid bead is the leader is tangled around
wrapped around the swivel or at the top of the bobber.
Something right.
And so when you make that cast with that little corky on top of that bobber and when it just gets strung out and perched right up on top,
You're dialed.
You're dialed and that presentation is going to fish through the hole the way it's supposed to versus boofing a cast
Guessing
and then putting those fish on alert essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
So I've seen that pay really big dividends, especially in the the lower rafting or drift boating clear.
And I've seen it pay off.
Move to the corky on the bobber.
You moved to the corky on the bobber.
I did.
Come to the light.
I feel like it's really important.
We'll talk about that in a second too, because we got one more you and I will talk about. Because I saw you posted something about maybe an incognito bead on one of your steelhead that you caught.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Yes, my
come
friend.
to the dark side, my friend.
Yes.
Let's talk about that a little bit
They
because
are the real deal.
they're
I'll
the real
I will
deal.
tell you that. I fished on that specific fish. I fished 4 different beads and 2 different jigs. And then I was like, I just tied up a bunch of these. Why not just try one of these? First cast with that thing in there. It was the same shades, colors that I was using. So I was like, let's see if this kind of, does pop.
Has
do
more of that
something
natural look.
Dude, and I don't know what it is about it, but
So you didn't tell me this story. I just thought you might have just tried them for a day and just realized how easy they were to fish. And when it comes to efficiency, and it comes to, like I said, making a cast, having the guy go out, touches the bottom, he pops the hook hard, it sinks the soft bead on the hook, or it fouls the gear.
Yep,
That's never fishing.
They're very, very easy. It's I'm gonna pick on you because you make fun of me for tying my bumpers on from my main line to my inline, and you're like, oh, you like to tie extra knots, and I'm thinking to myself, tying these glass beads, I'm like, Cameron likes to tie a lot of freaking knots then.
Yeah.
But no, other than that, they're bar none. I mean, they're the real deal. Like I said,
There's something
cool.
to them.
And I like the fact that they can absorb scent. That fact, sorry, but it's pretty cool.
So just that fish, I mean, so like I said, you work that fish over with other beads. I mean, it doesn't matter hard or soft. You think it was scent then? Did you have scent? Or?
No, I literally just think it was the way that bead looked. It was
more pale or more translucent or something?
Well,
or
that was the thing too. It was the same kind of shade color, but I think having that clear coating over the top of it gives it that different look, and it has a
That's
ton
the 10% sometimes.
ton of UV in it. So I don't
See,
know.
it's weird. Like I think that does help in times because like especially when I size them down
and that
and
was
go
the
10
other
mil. But
thing
for
too.
me, it's just about efficiency because I know when a customer casts it out, I know it's not going to be fouled
right.
or not going to be screwed up ever,
Mm-hmm.
like ever. So I don't even like, and I know when we're fishing, and especially you two dogging like a lot. Every time that customer reels in, is like you're looking at their gear for them,
Yeah.
because you want to make sure that when they throw it back out, it's fishing right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something to be said a little bit, but that's really interesting because that was a really nice fish you got.
That was.
One thing I want to add to the 10%, a lot of times this guy's always...
That was a hatchery fish?
That was a hatchery fish.
I didn't even look that close because you had it down in the water. I'm like, oh, it must have been a bit. Oh, wow. Damn.
Yeah.
I want to say less is more. It's a saying I've used my whole life on fishing. Sometimes everyone wants to throw 2 beads, but if you can't cast it and get it through, you're killing the hole. You're ruining it because of bad presentation. So sometimes just run 1 bead through if that's all you can get through there. Right. Say if you're trying to get under a brush spot in certain situations, I see it all the time on the big rivers where, I need to have 2 beads to catch fish. No, you don't. 1 fishing good is better than 2 not fishing.
And how many times?
Yeah.
Well,
1 bead.
How many times
and,
do you hook?
I'd say Josiah just wrote an article about that, like an STS about fishing 1 bead.
Yeah.
And like you're right. I mean, you spook the fish, you foul the hole, you foul your gear. That could have been that one time you could have gotten a bite that day and you didn't because your gear was fouled.
Yeah, so don't always think you need to have more and bigger. Like I said, less is more a lot of times in situations. And often I tell people, like, we're not whipping those double bead setups. It's more of a lob, especially on the big systems where we're throwing a long ways and your gear's way out there.
Right.
You can't whip it. So I tell people to lay that gear on the water nice and smooth, and it seems to get where they're not tangling it.
Oh, all good stuff.
Yes.
All good stuff to think about, guys. But guess what? We've got a roll here, but I want to give you guys a couple quick reminders because we can talk about this stuff all day. And in fact, we're going to go talk about it on the live feed here, that if you guys are interested, go to the YouTube channel and search the live feed because we're going to have, I think we're going to get Nick in there too. I don't know. We're going to have a whole bunch of people in there talking about the extra little things that you guys can do to honestly maximize getting fish. Catch more fish out there. So don't forget, guys, we'll be at the Puyallup Sportsman Show. We are going to be having live bashes there. As you guys know, the bashes are a bunch of parties where we give out a lot of prizes. We're going to have really cool giveaways. We're going to have really cool speakers. I know since the timing being early February for both the Puyallup and the Sportsman Show, I know we'll be talking some springers in there, but you bet your ass we're going to be talking some steelhead as well. So that's coming up real quick, and we appreciate you guys also coming out in droves, supporting us and buying through the shop on the Christmas. We had a great holiday season. Super awesome to see you guys out there. And so we do appreciate the support. Hopefully you guys all got into that golden ticket giveaway. If you're hearing this before the new year, you got one last chance to do it. But if not, we'll have to get you on the next one. But we do appreciate all you guys' support, and we'll be seeing you guys at the Sportsman Shows. Give Ryan McCon here at Riverside Guide Service a call for some steelhead trips. And of course, Jason Harmson for Steel Obsession Guide Service. Ryan's going to be doing the sled stuff. Jason's going to be doing the raft stuff. And hit him up and go see what the extra 10% really can mean on a day of catching fish. So thanks for coming,
can't wait.
guys.
I'm excited for all the stuff coming up this year. I think it's going to be, after last year, it's going to be good.
Last year was pretty good. This year, I think it's got the makings.
Well, I don't want to get too excited and then have closures and stuff. So I'm trying to keep
Podcast
calm.
over. Podcast over. Podcast over. We'll see you guys.